was in charge of
Spicy, it is spicy.
the award program. Had the,
I love spicy.
and we had 3.
Okay, at 6:04, we're going to start our meeting.
Okay.
We'll call the order. Have we verified the quorum?
Yes. Yeah.
And we confirmed the posting of the agenda. Steve Torrance.
Yes.
Any announcements of any change?
There are no changes. There is public comment, however.
Okay, so we're going to go into public comment right now. I believe we have 3 speakers. You'll all get 3 minutes, and we'll start with Kevin Mitchell.
Hello, everybody. Kevin Mitchell, Redondo Beach resident, 25 years. Okay. On October 14th, Metro released a C-line extension to Torrance. Or excuse me, August 14th, Metro released a C-line extension to Torrance project update distributed to board of directors. In it, Metro unveils a new poll taken by a market research company that supports the proposed project of the road. The phone survey of 670 random respondents boasted 67% support rate. 24% had no opinion or what I would call a hang-up. In this same report, Metro claims, quote, both the community poll and the draft EIR comments show high levels of community support for the project and low levels of opposition, despite a group of vocal opponents that have attended many public meetings on the project, which is us. To arrive at these conclusions, Metro cites 1,850 responses focused on alignment preferences only. 1,288 being for the row. This may be due to the city of Torrance publishing a QR code aimed at the row alignment, quote, submit name to affirm your support for the proposed row, which solicited a monolithic response that had no relationship to the DEIR itself. Metro cites only 13% of the comments address actual concerns or impacts of the published DEIR. It is this kind of specious argument that has become vocal opponents. Regretfully, we have had to overcome former city representatives who have been willing to sacrifice residents for political accolades. Unpublished on Metro's All Things C-Line box files are the actual digital recordings of 2 town hall meetings with Lawndale and Redondo Beach held at Lawndale High School Auditorium and Redondo Beach Performing Arts during the DEIR response period. The C-Line options were presented, but it was the 1-minute public responses that set the tone. In both meetings, the crowd was large and 95% opposed the row. At the Lawndale meeting, a homeowner actually had a heart attack, which ended the meeting. Metro's lack of transparency and real accounting of those very real exchanges, coupled with cherry picking of data from mass polling, demonstrates unclean hands in dealing with the public stakeholders. A lot is on the line, a 100-year impact on the South Loop community. In the same report, Metro published a new cost analysis, which shows the row with mitigations costing $2.23 billion versus Hawthorne at $2.96 billion. Truth is, they cost the same. The row residents will be saddled with the cost difference in loss of property via encroachments, loss of property value, destruction to foundational structures, exposure to hazardous incidents, incessant noise and vibration, and loss of quality of life. Thank you.
That was Kevin? That was you? Okay. Sorry for my lateness, but I'm here. Nikki, you're next.
Good evening, everybody. Nikki Mitchell, speaking as a Redondo Beach right-of-way shareholder, fourth generation South Bay resident, and Gardena Mohican alumni. I enjoy addressing the negative. It's not my normal wheelhouse, but there is a significant need to call attention to the equity justice issues that are plaguing my community. I just want to point out some things for going forward on the draft EIR discussions. I'd like for everyone here to understand why there is such a huge volume discrepancy in the draft EIR public comments for locally preferred alternative. Some of you may have heard this being characterized by Metro as indicative of a higher percentage of community favoring the right-of-way at grade, without considering any content substance, and before having answered any actual public comments and questions on the draft EIR. There are 2 things to consider right off the bat, which are, we fully expected Torrance's volume of right-of-way support affirmations via QR code generated form letters, which undemocratically only offered their residents one option to support. And I'm sure none of Torrance's form letters had addressed the very serious technical problems on the right-of-way. The volume without substance is meaningless. However, current Torrance City Council reps have acknowledged that they understand our issues and have stated in the public meetings. A small poll deliberately targeted to avoid our right-of-way communities was made public to the Torrance Transportation Committee as argument to keep them on board with the project. Out of more than 250,000 residents between the three cities, only 670 respondents happened to pick up their spam phone call to answer their scripted, tailored questions. And this is not a true representation, especially considering all of Metro's public hearings, and 2 of the 3 cities were overwhelmingly in favor of the Hawthorne option. We're not surprised by these characterizations. We look forward to Metro's answers to our public draft VIR comments and questions. Further, on the fixed Torrance QR code campaign, I'm not sure how that concept got approved for an official .gov website, but who would allow that kind of scheme as an official city strategy? Reps from that same body made false claims throughout, too many to name, but there was one that 20-year-old Torrance Redondo 25%, 75% deal is nothing more than egregious misinformation purposely manipulated and presented here at COG Transportation. I have those reports. Just for the record, I do have a lot of respect for the current Torrance council members who've lately been thinking things through and speaking their mind on the matter. It is necessary, however, to highlight the bad faith efforts that have been used against us over the years. Thank you for hearing me tonight.
Thank you, Nikki. Next is Holly.
I got my stopwatch this time. Hello, this is Holly Osborne. Good evening, engineer from Redondo Beach. Tonight, I'm going to start at the end of my charts. Please bring them up, okay? Because I never get there. So I'm going to get there tonight, but I don't see them. These seconds shouldn't be charged against me.
Are they supposed to be put up?
Talking.
Well, the last chart gives the requirement for separation of distance from the freight track center line to the pipelines. The distance must be greater than 25 feet. There you can see it. And please, no, okay. Oh, can you get rid of that stuff at the side? They can't see the charts.
Go ahead, Holly. So you don't lose your time.
Going backwards. In other words, the center line of the track is here. The pipelines have to be more than 25 feet away. Go back to the previous chart.
Can you go back to the previous one?
Yeah.
Right?
This is part of the PDF, right?
Yeah.
It should be a PDF.
Just a PDF. Just a PDF. Yeah.
I don't know why it's not doing that.
Continue on, Holly. Come on.
Okay. I spent hours on this, and she had it right before. Something must have.
It's called technical problems, but we're working on it. But go ahead, continue on.
All right, it's hard. Going backwards, this comes from the BNSF requirements. I did not make these requirements up. And there I had the BNSF requirement manual right there, which you can't see. Going back. Okay, this is ridiculous. No, all right. All right, there's the BNSF requirements. All right, now, I didn't make that 25 foot up. It comes straight from that. Go back to the previous slide now. Keep going back. Going
forward.
Thank you. This is a detailed drawing from the DEIR supplement. It shows the track center, 25 feet, 5 inches to the row boundary. Okay, if you're going to put in pipes, it means you've only got 5 inches to put them between the row boundary and the condos that are down there. Is that going to work? No. Okay. Not only that, they have a utilities corridor for 4 of the pipelines. I'll show you the 4 on the next slide. And that's underneath. It's well within the 25 feet. It doesn't fit. Wait. Okay. All right. You're there. All right. All right. So I just wanted to show you, I've never presented these slides before, that in the project, the train, now the freight train now swings down to the condo, so it's only 25 feet away. Okay, so in that 25 feet, we're gonna put all those pipelines. You see, it says there's a corridor and there's no room. Does anybody think that there is? Okay, go back.
You got 2 more. I'll give you another minute.
Okay, go back one more slide. All right, that's just the original one that I usually show, and I show you can see the 4 pipelines. There's 2 down on the bottom. That's actually the west, and then there's 2 at the top. One of them only has 1 marker. And so I talked to a BNSF engineer about this, and and the BNSF requirements, and he said he wasn't familiar with this project. He said, but he had heard there was one that Metro was really having a tough time getting everything to fit. This is it. It doesn't fit. If it doesn't fit, you must quit.
I know. Thank you, Holly. You had to go there. Okay. Thank you, Holly.
I just mentioned that we will be having, her slides will be on the website under the agenda, so you'll be able to access them.
Okay, but some of you had seen the first part.
Okay.
And so, okay.
Thank you. Thank you. On Zoom, Jill Love wants to public comments. Unmute.
Yes. Hi, my name is Jill Love. Thank you so much for your time. I am a Redondo Beach resident as well, and I live along the right-of-way. And in Holly's beautiful graphic that she had just showed, I am in an 18-unit townhome complex that backs right up to the right-of-way. And next door to us is the 191-unit active adult community. And then to my other side is a 27-unit condo complex or townhome complex, which had a sinkhole that developed when the Shell pipeline needed to be repaired. And that sinkhole was left open for over a year before it was covered and repaired. And one of my friends and neighbors with 2 small children the same age of mine was unable to use her yard and her front entrance for that year's time. And so I'm a mom of 2, and we love to have our children outdoors. And it's very concerning to me that these gas pipelines would move within feet of the wall that borders between us and the trains. And right now it's not a big deal. The trains go by a couple of times a day while, I'm working from home and my kids are playing and outside, but having multiple trains going from, 5 a.m. till midnight, plus having these gas pipelines stacked almost adjacent to our property is a very, very different picture. And professionally, I'm a geriatric care manager. And so I have a real concern for the older adults who live next door as well. So I'm concerned about the children, my own children, but also the many people who bought those condos with a specific plan of aging in place. And aging in place peacefully does not include these high-speed these trains that are going to be going just a few minutes at a time at all hours of the day and night. So I really urge you to reconsider or to consider the fact that there actually are hundreds and thousands of residents whose voices are not included in those polls and the data that is being presented to you. You are getting an incomplete picture, and there actually is quite a large and vocal community of us who love our neighborhood, and we want to keep the peace here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jill. Next up, Jennifer.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Dodge. I live in the same community that Jill Love does. It's Ruxton Ridge. It's the townhouse community that backs up to the row. It was the first complex that was built there along the row, and Breakwater Village and Ruxton Place to our south came in later. When I first moved in 2000, it was brand new, and the freight train ran on a constant basis, and it was the long freight trains. The reason I bought there was because I had done research and determined that the Alameda corridor was going to be built, which ran from the Port of Los Angeles to downtown Los Angeles, which would divert most of the heavy freight train traffic. And that did occur around 2003, 2004. There was never any discussion at that time about the Metro buying the right of way or having the high speed trains run there. My primary concern is that this is a 100-foot right of way. And if you can see in Holly's graphic, which really lays it out very well, it's not only an issue of moving or having to relocate the pipelines. When Shell had to do work on their pipelines a few years back, it caused a huge sinkhole right outside, as Jill mentioned, the patio of one of the Ruxton Place patios, and they were unable to use their front door. The soil there, and formal studies haven't been done, but we just don't believe that it's sufficient to support Metro running trains both ways, in addition to the freight rail, which would be moved, my understanding is, only 25 feet away from the wall that divides our property from the right of way. And as it stands now, with the freight train being the only rail, I already have some cracks in my wall when the trains are going too fast. And to think that there would be rail going north and south for Metro, even if it's light rail, I believe it's that the soil is not stable to support it, and it's just not fair to the residents that have invested a lot of their life savings in that particular area. And so I would just, and again, this misleading poll that Metro has put out is very upsetting, because it's some random poll and there's no way to verify those numbers. So I would just urge that our voices be heard, especially when there's a viable alternative down Hawthorne Boulevard, where the red car used to run, and which would be much more desirable from a commercial standpoint because of the businesses located in Lawndale and along Hawthorne and Torrance. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Next, Chelsea.
How many more do we have?
Hi guys, sorry, I'm doing dinner right now. They're kind of messy. I wasn't going to talk today, but for those of you who live along the right of way like I do, there were 4 trains that went by today instead of 2, and it was the first day of school at William Green Elementary School where I dropped my kid. And on the way home today at like 1:30, a train came by, and at 164th Street, there's a little opening that kids slip through. And I saw 6 kids run across it right before the freight train came by today. And it scared the ever-loving shit out of me. As some of you guys know, I got involved in this because my dog got beheaded by the train. So that's something that really worries me. And like I said, I wasn't going to talk today, but my heart's still pounding from it. It happened like 5 hours ago. So I just wanted to say, for those of you who are not in Lawndale or not directly affected by this, I just think it's so important to think of the kids or the people who are going to cross and possibly get killed by this 200 to 300 trains a day when they're at grade. So it's just a safety aspect. And when you're considering this, I know you haven't considered it yet, but when you do, please don't just consider the cost of it or the pipelines, which are very important. And you did amazing, Holly. You did so great. But consider the lives of people, and not just the livelihoods or, the cost of houses, but consider the cost of lives, because it's just scary. And seeing those kids dart in front of the freight train today, I lost my mind. So I just don't want it to happen, and I don't want kids to die, and kids are going to get through no matter what kind of barriers they have. So thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Have a good evening, and we'll try to stay a little less messy. Bye.
Thanks, Chelsea. Next, John Driver.
Hi, I wasn't going to speak either, but I did see that Metro put out that memo about the poll that they took, as well as some comments about what was supported in the draft EIR comments. And the one thing I think is misleading is that poll simply asks, do you support the light rail extension to Torrance? And when it's so generalized, of course, people support that in general. It's not, I support that in general, and I support you doing it on the Hawthorne Boulevard option. So you'd actually include me in a general support column, but I don't think they really nailed down like which option do people support. And I don't think people are fully aware of the options and the drawbacks, especially to the row. The other thing I'd point out is that Torrance, in their draft EIR comments, had a little QR code that people could scan that would just automatically send, I support the row, to Metro. So I think when you say that most people support the row is misleading, because I would like to know how many of those comments were automatically generated just by somebody scanning a QR code and then torrents forwarding on those to Metro. So, you know, the poll, like I said, we support rail to the South Bay on the Hawthorne Boulevard route, not the row. And I think you guys just need to take a closer look at how Metro did that survey and whether or not it fully represented the community. Thanks.
Thank you, John. Thank you, John. Colleen?
Hi, Colleen Villegas, Row resident, Lawndale, also 5th generation South Bay resident. I would just like to back up what Nikki, Kevin, and John, and all the rest of you have said about the validity of that poll, that survey. I don't think it was an adequate cross-section, and I think you need to really look at it. If you haven't already, come to the row, and thank you to those of you who have. I would just urge you to really come and look at it firsthand and really see why we support the Hawthorne Boulevard option. Thank you.
Thank you, Colleen. That concludes our oral comment section.
Oh, well, I have comment too.
You have to fill out, when you're done with your comment, could you fill out a slip?
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
Comment from here.
Yeah, and state your name.
Okay, Rose Rodriguez, and my son also signed up on your website to do a comment, both of us.
Is he here?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
My glasses.
You can go ahead and speak now.
Okay, I'm just gonna get my glasses for that.
I'll go for it. So pretty much, hello, everybody. I'm a Lawndale resident, totally against the row option, more for Hawthorne Boulevard. I think while I was walking in, someone was speaking upon the poll that was taken of Lawndale residents. I don't know one Lawndale resident for a place that I've lived my whole life that is for the row option. And to hear that is somehow the synopsis of results doesn't make any sense to me, which is why I'm here today, just to kind of have my voice heard with my mom, who is totally against this as well. But yeah, so in my objection of it, I just think it just makes perfect sense as for Hawthorne Boulevard due to the commerce, the businesses that it can enhance, and the malls that are in the way. And to go through a small city of people that are probably making in the social economic aspect of like $30,000 a year, $40,000 a year annually, and kind of mess up their property values and totally mess up their way of lives, and having to push back some housing that are across on that Condon Avenue straight. It just seems like, you know, the big man pushing on the little man. And I think everyone likes to get against that. And that's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you.
How long do you have?
See, the 3 minutes.
Oh, 3 minutes? Oh, and I can do the whole thing. Okay. I think I left part of my words out because I thought we only got 60 seconds. So I'm just going to go straight, because I know Nikki was going to touch on the ring vote with the QRs, so I'm not going to talk about that. I'd like to state page 5 of the letter that Metro wrote. Okay, it states that 170 businesses are impacted. Well, I'd like to just state that I think most of them are in Lawndale, because I counted how many businesses are in Torrance up the road. And I think I counted maybe 10 or 15. You could do it yourself, do a Google search. They're all there. So most of them, and then I'm not even counting the Galleria, who's in support of Hawthorne Boulevard. Torrance is talking out of both sides of their mouth. Rather than choose a vacant lot at the Lama Mall near Madrona Avenue for their Torrance Center. No, what did they do? They are losing millions and millions of dollars in tax revenue to construct it next to a big oil refinery ghost town area. This is not futuristic by any stretch of the imagination. It is backward thinking. In fact, it's going straight back to 1963. Google what happened in 1963. Okay, hundreds of residents complained at a council meeting at the time they weren't being protected against the civil rights watchers that were
marching for equity because they couldn't buy a house in Torrance. But now, guess what Torrance is doing now? We're protecting them from metro riders. And it makes sure that they stay out of sight from their residential neighborhood. That's the real elephant in the room that nobody wants to address. Torrance is self-serving at Lawndale's expense. There's no social justice for Lawndale, no equity of any type at all. Instead, what do we get? We get a rigged QR poll with one vote, one single vote. What the Torrance wanted, which is vote for the road. And how do I know? I know from my own experience because I am a metro rider. I do ride because I'm visually impaired. I'm blind in one eye since birth. So I'm always taking the buses. And so I was looking for the 8 bus. What do I see? I was shocked beyond belief when I saw their QR poll, and I'm looking to vote for Hawthorne Boulevard, and there was no vote there. Nothing was there. And so anyway, at the same time on page 4, Stephanie Wiggins, I believe, he wrote about us residents, hundreds of them, that we showed up after working really hard in the hot summer day. We went to these meetings. The first meeting, there was a lot of Lawndale residents there in Lawndale High. Probably about, I'd say, at least 100 maybe. We all gave our names and addresses. We're not
Conclude your thought. Your time is up. Conclude your thought.
Okay, well, I just wanted to say that we were condescendingly dismissed by Stephanie Wiggins because we want the Hawthorne Boulevard option. Okay, and the whole thing is what we're getting is no equity, but we are getting a lot of dishonesty.
Thank you. Is that all the public comments? Thank you for that. Now we have a consent calendar. Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
It's been properly moved in second. Reverse roll call.
Sorry, I'm gonna do the roll call.
Oh, you don't.
Okay. Carson.
Yes.
They've got the news for me. Yes, okay. Gardena.
Yes.
Hawthorne. Nina?
Oh, sorry. Here.
Hermosa Beach.
Yes.
Lawndale.
Yeah.
Lomita.
Yes.
Manhattan Beach.
Yes.
Rancho Palos Verdes.
Yes.
Redondo Beach.
Yes.
Rolling Hills.
Yes.
Rolling Hills Estates.
Yes.
Torrance.
Here.
Did you say here or yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Here and
District 2, LA County, yes, and District 4.
Yes.
That's the consent calendar. Okay, thank you.
I'll be there.
Thank you for that. Now we're under presentations, LA 28 Olympic and Paralympic Games. Vic here? Been the whole time. All right.
Yes. Thanks, council member. Appreciate it. Up on the
Thanks, everybody, and thank you, South Bay Cities COG for having us here today. My name is Vic Knoll. I'm the Director of Venue Cities Relations at LA 28 for the organizing committee for the Los Angeles 2028 Olympic and Paralympic Games. I'm here with a couple of my colleagues, our Vice President of Transportation, Sam Morrissey, and my colleague, Ellie Parfrey Taylor, who's our Senior Manager in Transportation. Ellie's going to be joining me on part of this presentation as well. Next slide, please. So as you all know, the world is going to be descending on the Los Angeles region in 2028. Next slide, please. This is actually going to be the third time Los Angeles is hosting the Olympic Games. The first time was in 1932. The second time was in 1984 for those of us that were around during those really iconic games. And then after Paris next summer, we'll be on deck for the Summer Games in 2028. And after the 2028 games, Los Angeles will actually be joining only London and Paris is just the third city in the world to have ever hosted 3 Olympic Games, something we're really excited about. And we're also really excited that this is actually going to be the first time that Los Angeles is hosting the Paralympic Games. Next slide, please. This is a bit of an eye chart, but this is really a games by the numbers. The Olympics are the largest sporting event in the world. We expect 15,000 athletes, 40 plus sports, 800 events, 10 to 15 million ticketed fans. The numbers are really so staggering. The way we try to put it in context for people is that for us, it's the equivalent of putting on 7 to 8 Super Bowls per day over the course of the 17 days of the Olympic Games, taking about a 2-week break, and then putting on 2 to 3 Super Bowls per day over the course of the 13 days of the Paralympic Games. Next slide, please.
Oh.
Click it. You can just click through, there's like 3 bullet points there. So just a little bit about LA28 as an organization. We are actually a private nonprofit organization. We are established just to put on the Olympic and Paralympic Games. So the organization actually ceases to exist after the games are put on. We have a volunteer board of directors led by our chairman, Casey Wasserman, who you may know from the Los Angeles sports and entertainment world. All of our financial support is actually, the bulk of it is received from our commercial partners, meaning those companies such as Delta that pay, you know, sums of money to be the X of the games or the Y of the games. Some of the shortfall is made up from our ticket sales, and then we get some support as well from the International Olympic Committee, which is really different from other parts of the world in terms of how a games is put on. Next slide, please. So in other parts of the world, you may have seen really like governments completely fund a games to put it on, meaning that they will build all of the infrastructure for it. They'll build stadiums from the ground up. They'll build athlete villages from the ground up. And we've really seen mixed results in terms of what those venues are used for after the games. The benefit of living in Los Angeles, as we all know, is that it's a sports town, and we have the benefit of having world-class existing stadiums here, stadiums that are going to be coming online as well. So, you know, a couple of our chief responsibilities are 1, being fiscally responsible, and 2, being sustainable. We really believe the most sustainable games is one that you don't have to build anything for. So, and for these games, we're not going to be building any new permanent infrastructure. We'll be utilizing those existing stadiums and stadiums that are going to be coming online in the future as well. So this is, you can see a similar map on our website, and this is a map of our games planning currently. Los Angeles being the host city for the games, the vast majority of the events are going to be taking place in the city of LA. We'll be utilizing the Memorial Coliseum, again, the 3rd time in its history to be hosting an Olympic Games. We'll be utilizing USC campus, UCLA campus, which was the rendering in the previous slide, will be used for our athlete village, and we'll be utilizing stadiums such as Crypto.com, where the Lakers play, Microsoft Theater, Los Angeles Convention Center, and others. One of the things that's different from the 1984 games is that we'll also have a presence in the San Fernando Valley, utilizing an area in the Sepulveda Basin, and kind of working our way from north to south. We'll be in Pasadena, utilizing the Rose Bowl again. That'll be a venue that'll be utilized for its 3rd Olympic Games, Santa Monica Beach, and then Long Beach for a number of events. We're possibly going to be as far south as Anaheim. And then in the South Bay, is a really important region for us. We'll be both in Inglewood and in Marston. So I'll caveat all that by saying that some of the stuff that you see on our website, our games planning is still in development right now. The International Olympic Committee is preparing to do what we call a discipline and sport review process, and that will be finalized in Mumbai in October. So we suspect that we'll probably have our kind of final games plan by early next year. So there might be some movement there in terms of sports coming into the games or out of the games. You may have heard sports such as cricket are really clamoring to get into the game. So some movement there as well. But with that, let me turn it over to Ellie for the transportation.
Thank you, Vic. So I'm just going to give a brief overview into what we're looking at for the transportation for the games. So our mission really is to provide a seamless transportation system that serves all of the athletes, the spectators, the stakeholders, whilst keeping the region moving. That's a really important message for us. We want to really transform the way that we travel to the games in order to benefit the region long term. And I'm going to touch on a couple of our guiding principles and how that impacts that. So first of all, we're looking at sustainability. So what we really want to do is put transit first into making sure that spectators can attend the games via transit in order to reduce the impacts of traffic around venue areas. We're looking at legacy. As Vic said, there is no new permanent infrastructure needed, but we're looking to catalyze some of the investments in the region already, just to make sure that they are in place by the time the games happen. And we're working together with our public agency collaborators on that. And along with that, we have equity, which is also maximizing those public agency investments in the region's transportation system to make sure that it's a multimodal system. And then innovation, and we want to collaborate with public and private partners to accelerate investments in emerging technology in the region. Next slide, please. So I just touched briefly on our collaborators, and we have a couple of different groups that I'm going to touch on. The first is the Games Mobility Executives. Now, this is a group that LA28 set up so that we can work collaboratively with the public agencies who hold remit across the region. You can see here that our partners are City of LA, Metro, Metrolink, Caltrans, LADOT, and SCAG. And we work together closely to ensure that all of the investment in the region is coming in at the right time, and that also our projects that need to be delivered for the games happen at the right time. We're also co-creating with our LA28 community working groups. So we have a number of working groups. There's sustainability, there is labor, and there's procurement. These were picked through a formal process to ensure that they represent Los Angeles. So we'll be working with them to co-create our transportation plan. And also we'll be working with cities, agencies, and other munis through, like these meetings, but also to make sure that when we're delivering our projects that everyone's engaged. Next slide, please. So I'm going to talk through a couple of our key goals. So our number one goal is to move our key constituents efficiently and effectively. So these are people like our athletes, our spectators, etc. We want to also be able to move our spectators and workforce via existing and enhanced transportation. So to make sure that they're able to use the public transportation in the city today and any new projects that come online before 2028. And then our most important is to keep LA and its residents moving during the games to ensure that the impacts of the games don't negatively affect the region from making those trips that it needs to make. Next slide, please. So we have three different priority work streams for us to be able to deliver the games effectively. They are mobility hubs, supplemental bus and games route network. I'm going to go through each of them in a little bit of detail. So the first one is mobility hubs. What we're planning to do is to leverage existing and planned multimodal hubs to ensure that people have connections to the transit network and to venues. We're going to arrange new temporary facilities to accommodate the games needs on top of the multimodal hubs that already exist. I mean, you know them down the road, like, for example, Torrance Transit Center. These will link venues to public transport systems. For the supplemental bus, this is basically a new temporary service of a bus overlay to serve the needs of spectator demand. This will be in the style of a borrow a bus scheme, which was used in Salt Lake City very successfully, where we will borrow buses from other agencies on a short-term loan to move spectators around the city. And then finally, the games route network. This is a set of dedicated lanes across the region We're trying to leverage existing facilities to the greatest extent. So if you think about HOV, hot lanes, bus only lanes, to ensure that our stakeholders can get around the city in on reliable journey times. So we're going to use these set of dedicated lanes to link accommodations to serve those game stakeholders, as I said before. So these are people like athletes, the IOC, the media, broadcast. You know, we need to get the athletes to the games on time so that the games can run. Next slide, please. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about who is moving during the games. I touched on this a little bit, but I think this is important to note which systems and which people can use which options. So the Games Route Network, as I said before, is going to be primarily used for folks like athletes, the technical officials, ticketed spectators, and workforce, as is the supplemental bus. This will provide the temporary overlay for those folks to be able to get around easily. We have mobility hubs as well, which will be more open to like the region and the residents, commuters, tourists, etc. And then last but not least, public transport will obviously, as it is today, will be open to everyone. I think that's it. And mark your calendars. We obviously have passed, we're now into the 4-year countdown for the Olympics and and we're nearly at, well, we're past also the 4-year countdown for the Paralympics. So very exciting. And thanks to Vic.
Thank you.
Any questions or?
Question. Hi, Aurelio Matucci with the City of Torrance. It may not be within the scope of your role, but and no offense to LA, but LA is a disaster. It's embarrassing, and quite honestly, whenever you have an Olympic game like this, it's always an honor to bring people from all over the world and introduce a city. And most of the people that are coming probably never been here before. And if at all it looks in 2028 the way it looks now, there's a good chance they'll never come back. What efforts, if any, within the scope of what you do are done by the city of Los Angeles, possibly even the county, to help clean up the streets and make it look presentable?
That's a great question. So, and what we're working with the Games Mobility Executive. So those are the groups of agencies that we spoke about before. And what we're doing is we're encouraging the really great infrastructure projects that they already had planned before the Olympics even came to LA, to use the Olympics as a way to catalyze and bring forward the delivery of some of these programs to make sure that LA is a city that we, are proud of to bring people to. So that is what action we're taking on that.
Yeah, I was surprised that it wasn't even mentioned in the presentation, because I think I would hope it's on everybody's mind. I mean, I hope I'm not the black sheep here.
I think it's a really good point. This presentation is really high level at this point. We're just starting to get out in front of organizations, but I think we are working very closely with the city of LA, obviously, on the games, but we are working very closely as well with the county. The city is the host city. So those are questions that we're going to be working through and working in partnership with not just the city of Los Angeles, not just with the county, right? And our venue cities, but regionally with all of our cities and whatnot. And that's the whole point of getting out in front of the COGs and the different organizations. So just because Torrance is not a venue city per se, does not mean that, Torrance is.
I mean, we want to be part of the solution as well. So
exactly.
We're neighbors.
It takes all of us regionally, because the benefit is going to be regional, right? It doesn't mean.
That's a great opportunity. I think it's great.
People aren't just
that much time though to do
staying in venue cities when they come here for the games. They're staying across the region.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So if we could go back to the map of where the facilities, where sports facilities are, and we don't see any locations in the South Bay besides inland, and we've got such this enormous beach going from Redondo Beach from Palos Verdes, Redondo Beach, Hermosa Beach, Manhattan Beach, that all host other sporting events like AVP Beach Volleyball. Hermosa Beach is the capital of beach volleyball. How come the only sports events we see on the map of the ocean are in Santa Monica, and we're not spreading the love across the South Bay so that the economic impact of the Olympics is felt everywhere, kind of along the coast here?
Well, I'd say that one, we can't put things everywhere, obviously. For beach volleyball, it's going to be in Santa Monica. We're also going to be on the coast as well in Long Beach and possibly other places. But when you think about it in terms of a couple different things, one, when I mentioned the venues, right? And obviously beach volleyball, you can do that anywhere, right? But then we also have to think about the transportation piece of it in terms of how people are getting in and out of congested area and whether or not we have the other infrastructure to support a games in a certain area. But that again, that benefit is going to be dramatic, not just regionally, but in the South Bay, Inglewood, and Carson, of course, are the venue cities. But as an example, we already we have an accommodations team that is already getting agreements with various hotels in place across the South Bay, not just in Inglewood and Carson. And right now, I think we've got about 44 hotels representing over 250,000 room nights over the course of the Olympic and Paralympic Games. And that's spread across the South Bay, right? I can't share with you what hotels they are right now, but those are also just hotels for our stakeholders, meaning officials coming in, meaning staff, et cetera, IOC officials, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's not taking into consideration even the international tourists that are coming in, the national tourists that are coming in. So the impact is being spread across regional.
All right, and something you might not see by looking at the map, but some Torrance city officials told me that they're going to have the metro line built to Torrance by the 2020 Olympics.
Yeah, right.
You think about the capacity of the area to handle people moving through there.
David?
Vic, I just wanted to thank you for this overview, and I had just a general question, and that is, what type of input might you want from our communities do you anticipate going forward?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think, as I mentioned, right now, we're just starting to get in front of organizations, starting with the elected officials, of course, City of LA, county, or venue cities. Now we're getting in front of the COGs. We're going to be getting in front of the chambers as well. And then one of the things that we'd love to hear is just feedback, right? And we don't expect this to be a one and done presentation, right? We still have T-minus for just a little under 5 years until the games, right? But from elected officials in particular, what are the other organizations that we should be talking to? Are there things that are missing in terms of what we're thinking about as we start to share more detailed information in terms of like transportation plans, et cetera, how those are going to impact your communities? And because it's going to be a collaboration, right? Where we're not just going to plan this and put it on you guys, right? We want this to be a collaboration, and that isn't just for the City of LA and the venue cities.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I've seen the presentation a couple of times now, once with the Carson Chamber, and then here with the SBACC a couple of weeks ago. And it's really exciting to see how it's growing as we add on the other pieces and we talk more in depth about the transportation. But there is a challenge here, a good challenge for all of us. This is really an opportunity for us to make something of this in our individual communities. Like in Lomita, we were the home of Jim Thorpe in his latter years. For many years, actually, he lived in Lomita and was well known in the community. And we have a little Jim Thorpe Memorial at City Hall. Well, one of the greatest Olympians of all time, one of the most mistreated by the rest of the world, but still an amazing person. And we have these figures throughout the community, and we have our up and coming athletes, whether they're Olympians or not, but this is a great chance for us to do something with this. If we're going to have the Olympics here, we might as well make hay of it and really have a grand time. So Vic's heard me here say this way too many times, but during the '84 Olympics, I worked for USC in the Olympic Village. I still remember so well seeing a boxer walking back from the then sports arena with his gold medal around his neck, looking like somebody had beaten the crap out of him. And I realized he's the guy who won. But the whole feel of everything that was going on at that time, I mean, not just in the Olympic Village, but all over LA was amazing. And there literally was no traffic, there was no pollution, and there was no crime. And you know, that was done kind of a hurry up Olympics and in some ways put together on a shoestring, but things went really well. And already, I think attention is being paid to things that previously we didn't consider. Certainly issues of equity and greater issues of safety, you know, community safety, not just safety of the events, and how we can make something of this. So we've got 5 years. So if 6 years from now, we look back and say, oh, well, we didn't really do anything in our town. Well, that's on us. So, you know, we need to start now and start building something up, you know, in each of our towns. So anyway, that's my challenge to all of us is what are we going to do to celebrate the Olympics in our community and make sure that we can make the most of it.
Great. Good question.
You mentioned the volunteer board of directors. Is that appointed by the governor or a committee somewhere, or how did that happen?
No, I don't believe. Yeah, that's a great question, Councilmember. I'm not sure that it's appointed by the governor. I'll have to get back to you on that actually, in terms of how that's appointed. I believe it's via LA 28, but I'm not sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other? Oh, great.
Just briefly, I wanted to applaud you and the organization for leveraging existing infrastructure and having sustainability as one of your key goals. And if you're going to house the athletes at UCLA, you're going to hopefully teach us a lot about how to move people around LA, because that's going to be a challenge getting people to all parts of LA from UCLA. And the more we can help to figure out how we move those people around in the games, and the more we leverage existing infrastructure and improve it for the long-term benefit of our community, the better. So I applaud you for that. And Peter Uberoth will be a tough act to follow, but I'm sure you're all up to the task. So thanks for the presentation.
Appreciate that, Councilmember. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Thanks for having us.
Watershed Improvement Planning Project.
Yes.
David.
Thank you very much. It's hard to follow the Olympics. I don't know. We're just doing regular stuff around here. Thank you for having us over. My name is David McNeil. I'm the executive officer from the Baldwin Hills and Urban Watershed Conservancy, an agency that has been working on open space for about 22 years now. And recently we expanded into the South Bay. I think I presented during COVID and this room was half full. So it's good to be back. I know it's harder to have a meeting both ways, so I sympathize for the staff. Next slide, please. So our mission is to acquire open space. We're working in the South, the Upper Dominguez watershed, which is where you guys are. We've been working mostly in the Ballona Creek. Again, we're one of 9 state agencies that basically protects land, open space, and wildlife habitat for the territory for people's enjoyment and educational experience. Next slide, please. The big deal is we have grant funds. Those funds are available. We wanted to make sure that everybody in these cities was aware of the availability of those funds. We basically have year-round granting opportunities for these kinds of improvements. They're reimbursable grants, which most municipalities can deal with. We partner with a lot of nonprofits and NGOs, but we have Proposition 1, which you all voted for as a bond, competitive grant, Prop 68, another competitive grant. And then we have non-competitive grants, which are direct grants, projects that we look at and say they're worthwhile or shovel ready or shovel worthy. And we move them forward and try and get them done through grant applications of our new general fund, the Clean Climate Resilience, Community Access, Wildfire, Natural Resource Protection, Prop 84, which is a water bond, as well as Prop 40, which is an older park bond. Next slide, please. Examples, what we do. Climate adaptation. I hope you're all familiar with that. We've all been having extreme weather, trying to make sure our heat taken care of in terms of shelter and canopy and shade and water infrastructure. Habitat restoration. If you have any open space, wildlands. I know there's a marsh over here somewhere, and there's some dunes, here and there. So there's opportunities to do habitat and restore biodiversity. Stormwater capture, certainly we have a lot of not draining areas that need to be drained or percolated or recharging the water table. So those are opportunities to do that, whether it's rain barrels or water capture in the parking lot. And then wildfire prevention and some of these interface with the urban interface opportunities to protect homes and to reduce wildfire opportunities. And then community access, which is the thing, making sure parks are close to people and that they're upgraded and doing the job in terms of increasing the quality of life for our folks. Next project. So we were renamed in 2023 in January by Senator Kamala Doug then, who's now the Congresswoman. Changes to the Urban Watersheds Conservancy. We increased our territory from 2 square miles to 70 square miles. You see the map, which is down into part of the South Bay, the coast, and parts of Hawthorne at the southern end, and then 110 freeway roughly. It picked up a lot of unincorporated county and cities. We have a 27-member board. One of them is here, Member Katrina Manning. She represents the COG on your behalf at our meetings, and we try and get the voices, back and forth to share information with community members and agencies at one table. It's a cross section of the watershed that we all get together and talk about what we're doing and try and coordinate a little bit better. Next slide, please. So why I'm here today, that was all history. That's all background for the folks that don't know who we are. What we're working on currently is our watershed and resilience improvement plan. That's a mandated opportunity for us to look at the watershed in a holistic way, look at existing plans that have either been stalled or are on the brink of being implemented. Next slide. So we're trying to create a blueprint for climate resilience. That's the buzzword in Sacramento, obviously now, trying to make sure communities are resilient and ready for the heat and the weather. We also want to do a strategy for coordinating between agencies, meaning how do we get the municipal governments, how do we get the NGOs, and how do we get the community business organizations all on the same page, advocating for the funding, advocating for projects that will help improve communities. We're looking to do an action plan to get funding, federal, state, local. There's a bond that's going to be coming on the ballot next year, 2024 in November. If we have projects that are kind of listed and concepts of how much they're going to cost, we'll be able to put that money on a line item in the budget, hopefully for the Conservancy, so we can allocate those funds for grant opportunities. That's just how it works. If you don't have a line item, you don't have the money. Cities can get their own money, but we can also match that money by getting state money through our agency. So a lot of what we do is leveraging money. In fact, I'd say 70% of our projects have been leveraged with local money. So your Prop K or your Prop W or your Measure W or your Measure A money goes 10 times further, or local money, general fund money goes 10 times further if we augment it. And then we support the building of human knowledge and capacity. That's part of what we do in terms of our watershed and helping people understand stewardship and the like. Next, please. So the Watershed Improvement Plan is a long-term plan. It's a 2-year process. You can see the red areas in the far right map really indicate how park-starved parts of the territory are, which does include Lenox and Hawthorne, those unincorporated areas, parts of Lawndale, Gardena. I think it's out of our reach, but there is another conservancy that covers Gardena, so we will always make sure we share that information. And then certainly parts of El Segundo, and as we move down towards Manhattan Beach and Hermosa. Next slide, please. So, for example, we are focused on areas that need greening. Lenox is one of them. There's a lot of plans that have been out there, freeway pocket parks, where there's no land available, so they're kind of locked with no open space. So we're trying to find green oasis opportunities for those places. The idea, the partnerships we're working with are Caltrans, certainly Public Works, and other agencies that do the same sort of thing. It's a long-term strategy to really improve the way things look in Los Angeles, and walking to the park within a mile or a quarter mile of your home is the goal. Next, please. This is a park. You guys know Linwood Park, the Ricardo Lara Parkway. It's a greenway that was another freeway contract, project with Caltrans. These are the kind of things that we're looking at, the low-hanging fruit opportunities, because there's not a lot of easy open space here, right? There's nuisance properties, there's neglected, there's rail lines, there's oil fields. Those are the opportunities that we're looking at to create open space, because they just don't make open space anymore because we're built out. Next, please. See our partners, sure, they're legislative, their state, their city, their local. If your name's not up there, we're going to add your name to it. But we're trying to cover a lot of ground here and work and leverage all the opportunities from El Segundo, Del Air, Culver City, Crenshaw, Jefferson Park, you know, and the likes. And you can see everybody pretty much here at the table is in our territory for the most part. Next slide, please. So we're here to get your input. We just put out a planning survey that asks about the shocks and stressors, things that are happening in your communities relative to the community and your plans, and then what you're doing to address them. So whether it's climate, whether it's sustainability, whether it's transportation, sometimes housing, because we'd like to see housing projects built in with parks included. So you're having a green space, you know, put into the parks and investment there. So we really want to make sure we're getting that information. So the survey I did send out to the executive director or somebody here. If I didn't, I'm gonna have that dropped in the chat. If Daniel's online, man, drop that link in the chat. And yep, there you just dropped it in the chat. So you guys can hit that link. Take the time and really look at that survey. It takes about 3 minutes. And if you don't want to do it, then send it to your public works department or your parks department or your transportation department, your staff, so they can do it. And then we can have better inform this plan. And if we get that information, we'll come back and ask for more information. But we're sitting down with LA World Airports. We're sitting down with Hawthorne. We're sitting down with anyone that'll talk to us about what plans they have on the shelf that haven't been implemented. So we have those plans. We're not going to try to do a new plan. Hey, here's what we want to do in your community. We want to take plans that you already have done, that you're already working on, or that you're projected to work on, or that you're doing your CEQA for. So then we can say these plans are coming, and we're trying to put them all together, connect them if we can through transportation corridors, you know, accentuate housing with green space, and then, you know, reclaim degraded land. So that's the comprehensive concept of our watershed plan. Like I said, it's a 2-year effort. We're kind of halfway through the first year, and I think that's it. Let me see the next slide. Go ahead. I did questions.
Can you resend the survey to me and I'll send it out?
I'll resend it to you.
And I can send it. Do you want me to send it to city managers, public works directors?
You know what? You're the best executive director I know. You're handling all the business on the ground, and so I don't have to.
Okay.
But yes, and then we'll have all the information. Coming up, we have a grant funding workshop that we recommend any grant departments come to. I think the city of Hawthorne did send some representatives. We have another one coming up on September 6th. Send your grant writers to our things, help them understand what we're offering money for, how our terms are. And then we do a lot of capacity building and trying to help them partner with nonprofits that might do outreach or others that might do design work that don't have in-house. So a lot of that information will be at our grant workshop, which is up here on September 6th. It'll be live at the Stoneview Nature Center, but there'll also be a link that I'll make sure you have well for the virtual aspect of it. And then the planning meeting, we're having a listening session after that workshop, which we're also inviting city managers and parks folks to come in live and do it if they don't want to just do the survey. We've done a lot of these live, but we figure the survey gets more reach and easier. But if they want to come into the listening session, we'll do the same sort of exercises, but a little more depth over an hour or an hour and a half on the September 6th. So I think I did that in record time. I'm open to take questions.
Thank you, David. Thank you for that presentation. I do have a couple of questions. One being, I only saw maybe 2 cities that are part of the South Bay area that you guys are working with. My question is, why not more of our cities in the South Bay are not in tune to what you are able to provide?
Let's back up to that slide if we can that talks about the cities. Our territory, there it is. Our territory was drawn by HUCs, the hydraulic unit codes, and that's the watershed piece. There's the upper and the lower Dominguez watershed. We take over the upper watershed. That's the way our lines are drawn. The southern, the lower the lower Dominguez channel is handled by our sister agency, the Rivers and Mountains Conservancy. And I think you've seen them in the past. Mark Stanley, he's my co-part. He's executive officer of that agency. They do the same things we do. So you guys are covered somewhere, but you may not be covered with us. But I mean, you know, look, come on, we got.
You have a lot.
Manhattan Beach, we got Redondo.
They're missing Lawndale.
We're missing Lawndale. And I talked to our friends at Lawndale. They've got, I came to Lawndale and I said, Mark Stanley's going to be your man when you guys get ready for a park along that railway.
We should do the park where the metro wants to go. That should be our green area.
That's where Marks and the MRMC is there. I understand the cause here, and it's a good one. As long as the decisions are made at Metro to do it. Any other questions?
Before I open it up to everybody else, my other question was, based upon what you're presenting,
yes,
are you saying you have more money available than other?
More money? No, we're gonna run out of money. Now that we expanded, so let's get more money, but the expansion won't happen until the bond happens in November 2024. So we all vote for the bond, we fill our pot with, hey, here's all the projects that need to be done for this underserved, underinvested area that hasn't seen the money, that hasn't had a conservancy, that had a line item to do these projects. Therefore, you should, increase our share. Right now, the way the bond is being written by Senator Allen, I think we have about $50 million allocated if the bond passes, but we want to get that number up based on need. We have money. We don't have a lot, but we have money.
I just want
we have money. If you have money,
I just want my colleagues to hear that. Okay.
Yeah, we leverage money, but we don't have 50 million right now.
Oh, okay.
So we're going to leverage the money that we do have, and our grants range from $300,000 to $100 million. And again, some have matches, some don't.
Fan, you had a question?
You said Redondo on that list. I didn't see Redondo, so we must be in the Rivers and
Mountains Conservancy. Yes,
Rivers and Mountains Conservancy. Okay, because we have the water board just deauthorized the Redondo Beach power plant to keep operating, so it'll expire at the end of 2023. And there was formerly a wetlands there that zoned for park, so that would just be seemingly a natural place to open up a major water space, open space for the entire South Bay region.
You'll get money, not from me, but you'll get money.
Any other question? Yes, Becky.
No, I was just going to say for all of you to know that Kim is staying abreast of all the conservancies because legislation changed and we got automatically put in this one and in that one, and we're trying to stay involved in how we can understand the funding, tell you when it's available, and even work with them for projects that we can do regionally. So Kim is our point person.
And I apologize for the way it got lumped together, so we can't have that many cities represented on the Conservancy board. And since you guys do this collaborative effort, we thought, okay, we can just work with the COG and facilitate things through that. Easy. Hopefully you don't get the short end on that way, but hopefully you actually can work together and we can do things strategically. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. McNeil. Great presentation. It's the first time I hear of it, so that obviously it works getting out. I had a question about the survey. Well, one, that link.
It's coming to you.
No, I mean, it needs to be shorter. It's crazy.
We can build it into, link it or whatever.
But yeah. Can you explain exactly what that survey represents?
And so, I would love to just pull it up right now if you guys have time, but it represents, it's basically asking shocks and stressors. What's going on in your neighborhood? Is affordable housing the most important thing? Is parks and open space on your radar screen? Is transportation an issue? And then it goes through other questions of, what plans you guys have and whether you can drop those in there and how long it's going to take to do them. Are they in the 5-year range, the 10-year range?
Maybe like community development, city manager.
Yeah,
would look at it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm thinking the only departments that wouldn't look at it, like police. Yeah. Fire, we do have resilience, money for fire interface. So even they could look at it if there's a plan for, mitigation or, fire issues. Then we can say, oh, we need wildfire money because these guys want to trim down, all the right of ways, throughout the area and build infrastructure that's, fire resistant, or remove remove non-natives and put in natives because they burn less, during fire, the more fire resistant.
Appreciate it. Thank you. David.
Quick question. Each time I've driven up La Cienega, I see the many oil wells that are along, I think it's mostly La Cienega.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, what is the long-term plan, particularly for those that are no longer operational?
Oh, wow. You're in my neighborhood. So we were the Baldwin Hills Conservancy before we were the Urban Water Conservancy. And the Baldwin Hills do have the oldest active oil field in the country, in the urban areas. Legislation has changed in the last 3 years. The county is doing a 2030 oil will be a non-conforming use in communities. And they passed that ordinance all around the county of Los Angeles, except for the Inglewood oil field. And then last week we went to the planning department to have them add the Inglewood oil field to that, and they punted till October 4th to put it in there. So the trajectory for the oil field is, downward. Culver City has the depreciation plan, the amortization plan that has them going in the next 10 years. LA County has the same thing in the next 10 years. But that's no new drilling. There will be old drilling. And yes, they are getting about 1 million barrels a year. No, I got it wrong. Hold on. 100,000 barrels a month. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No. Thank you for that. Thank you for that presentation.
1 million barrels. Okay.
Next up is item number 9. I think I might. Employment agreement with Jackie Baccarat and
Yes. Okay. So where you work?
He was hiding in the back. I mean, I think many of you already knew that we had to convert Jackie from a contract employee to an actual employee of the COG. And we actually sat down and looked at the contract that she had proposed and how we were going to look at bringing her into the fold as an employee of the COG. And Mike is here, our legal representation and information that we had shared. For the most part, everything has been agreed upon. One item came up, and that was sick leave that no one had talked about. Now, we did put it in there based upon she is going to accrue her sick leave or sick time based upon the masses of the actual organization. But what was missing was a bank to start off with because of her longevity of being with the COG. And at the executive board level, we did make a decision to at least include 3 days of sick leave to start her off and then accrue as other employees do within a year's time. And I just want to bring that to the board as a general, and that we had the legal that was here. If there's any fielding, any question anybody may have.
Mike, do you want to go through the process of what we need to do?
Sure. So as Chair Hicks indicated, this is the consummation of a process whereby the board is going to transition the method by which the COG is administered from a independent contractor relationship with Jackie Backrack and Associates to the employment of a full-time employee to serve as executive director, that person being Jackie Backrack. The process tonight involves 2 steps. One would be a motion to approve the agreement, terminating the agreement with Jackie Backrack and Associates, effective as of September 1, 2023. That termination and rescission agreement is in your packet. And then second action would be to approve an employment agreement with Jackie Backrack, effective as of September 1, 2023, a copy of which is also included in your agenda packet. The employment agreement is substantially as you had it described to you before, in particular at your last meeting, with the one change that Chair Hicks indicated, that there would be a credit of 3 days of sick leave added to the added to Jackie's sick leave thing. Pursuant to the Brown Act, we're obligated to identify the principal terms of the agreement orally at this meeting prior to approval by the board. And the principal terms of the agreement are that it is an agreement that will extend for a term of through June 30, 2026. Salary is $195,000 per year. The agreement provides for certain vacation benefits, a one-time credit of 80 hours, and then 240 hours per year. Other benefits will correspond to those of other COG employees. Executive director will be an at-will employee, meaning that the executive director may be discharged at any time without cause, subject to payment of 6 months' salary as severance. There was mention made at one time that because the other benefits correspond to those provided by other COG employees, that those benefits, should they ever be changed, those changes should be subject to approval by this board. Consequently, at the last meeting of this board, direction was given to prepare an amendment to the bylaws of the organization that would specifically provide that any change to the employee policy manual that increases costs or increases employee compensation or benefits will take effect only upon approval of the governing board of the COG. And presented to you also in your packet is an amendment to the bylaws. It's highlighted in yellow on the very last page of the bylaws. Our bylaws provide that amendments must be presented to the governing board 30 days prior to their adoption. So the change is being presented to you tonight, and it will be presented to you again at your meeting in September for adoption. This was recommended as a better way of memorializing this requirement than simply adopting a resolution of the board. In order to create in effect, a duplicate protection in that regard, we are going to be presenting you with some changes to the employee policy manual at your meeting in September. They're mostly minor changes, but we are including in the policy manual itself that very same language, that the policy manual may not be amended in a way that increases costs or employee compensation or benefits without approval of the governing board. At the last meeting, a suggestion was made of potentially putting that language in the COG's financial policy. I took a look at that policy, but I thought that the subject matter was just too specific to payroll and technical issues to warrant putting something in there about amendments to the employee policy manual. So I think this is sufficiently redundant that it provides the necessary protection that you all need. With that, the recommendation tonight is as set forth in your staff report, and that is to go ahead and move to terminate the agreement with Jackie Backrack and Associates by way of approving termination and rescission agreement, and approve an employment agreement with Jackie Backrack to serve as the COG's executive director, both of which agreements are set forth in your agenda packet. And I'm available to answer any questions anyone may have.
Any questions or comments?
Is that one motion or can it be put in one thing?
Two separate ones.
You can make them either way, but if you'd like a separate motion, that's fine.
Okay. So it's cleaner.
Motion to rescind.
Second.
The property moved and second to rescind Jackie Backrack and Associates as a contract employee with the COG.
Leaving you with no one.
Leaving you with no one temporarily. Reverse roll call. 5 minutes. Reverse roll call.
September.
Want me to just say any objections? Any abstentions? And
motion carries.
That Jackie has already executed that agreement.
So Jackie is no longer employed. She's gone.
Motion
carries.
Motion to approve the new contract.
Second. Been properly moved and second to now employ her as an employee of COG.
Oh, it's her live streams.
Any objections? Any abstentions? Did somebody say objection? I didn't hear. Okay, abstentions? Okay,
Carries. Congratulations, Jackie. You're now an employee.
Well, in a couple of
yeah.
Congratulations.
And then just for the record, so we come back in 30 days to do the ratification of the bylaws based upon a 30-day wait period process. David.
Quick question for our new employee. Jackie, how do you see this changing your relationship with the COG, if at all?
I don't think it'll change it at all. I mean, I think that one of the interesting things is that I will be more attuned to when the employees are getting their paychecks and and knowing when, you know, I mean, I haven't been affected by some of the employee manual issues, and I will now be affected by them. So in that way, you know, I obviously knew them, but I think just a better recognition.
For purposes of this general meeting, is there any input that you would like from board members as now a new employee?
And no, except that one of the things that's in that employees, I think, do more than we did as me being a contractor, is regular performance evaluations, which we are going to be doing, and I think we should be better at scheduling it.
Thank you. Any other comments?
I would just make the observation that there are a number of people who Jackie Backrack and Associates had engaged as subcontractors. And a number of those individuals will be engaged as employees also by Jackie in her capacity as executive director and under the authority that she now has as executive director. Others who are independent contractors, because they have their own businesses and they have other clients, will remain independent contractors, but not with JB&A. They will be independent contractors directly with the COG.
And those two people are Kim Fuentes, who is going to be an employee as of September 1, and Natalie Champion, who will be a part-time employee. And just a little something I said to, I think, Drew Boyles a while ago is I was actually running out of checks for Jackie Backrack and Associates. So this is saving me a lot of
Fantastic.
So on the subject of performance evaluations, I don't know if there's already a standard performance evaluation form that the COG uses, but if not, then we should agendize a discussion of what form it should take so that you know what you're going to be rated on and we know what we're looking out for. So we should have a discussion at some point on, hey, you propose this form and we say, no, amend this, add these characteristics and stuff, so that then when we come back in a year, we're all on the same page as what we expected and what you were expecting to deliver.
And just for clarity, so 2 years ago, we had a subcommittee to develop just that, and we've had that. But I think that that's always open to discussion if we want to make changes, make it simpler, or the way it's presented. So I think the way in which we did it is we had a subcommittee to review it prior to, so maybe the chair would want to entertain something like that.
Does the board seem to want to look at maybe modifying the evaluation we have currently, or see how this will work for the first year as an employee?
How that should change, because we have a rigorous process already in effect, and it's not your typical dreary performance evaluation form that nobody reads.
I put it to the floor.
Well, it's a pretty intensive evaluation.
I filled it out.
I can't see it getting there.
Okay. Cool. That was my question. Is there a form already?
Yeah.
Ready?
I do have one question, and perhaps I'll ask Mike, and it has to do with our insurance liability. To the extent we're going to have more employees, hire actors, are our limits commensurate with the additional number of employees we're about to hire as an organization? Or should we at least evaluate that is the larger question?
I don't. We have workers' comp in compliance with state law. That would be the most obvious type of insurance that we.
What about the basis for the question is part of Jackie Backrack and Associates' obligation was to have adequate insurance in the past, and I'm just wondering to the extent that we're now acquiring those directly, if that imposes just some due diligence that we might want to undertake to ensure we have proper limits. And it doesn't have to be decided tonight, but I just raised the question.
Yeah, we can talk about that, but other than workers' comp, which would be affected because they will now be employees covered by the workers' comp policy, I don't think it would have any impact on the liability policy. So yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Next item, the South Bay Environmental Services Center report.
Okay, that's Kim, and that's page 121 in your agenda packet.
So in addition to what you have in front of you, I just wanted to give you an update. Of course, now the air comes on. Talk to yell across the room. A couple of things. The energy efficiency work that's taking place right now, and we've been talking a lot about doing facility equipment inventories and then identifying projects that the cities haven't taken advantage of yet that might have incentives, as well as We're finding projects that were just recently done that then we're coming back and trying to find incentives retroactive. And we're down to only 3 cities that we need to do facility inventories for. One of them is Redondo Beach. That's why I said sit next to me, because I wanted you want to get to your facility. And then we have Palos Verdes Estates, which has to still become a member of the organization. And the last one is Lawndale, but I have a meeting with one of your directors actually next week, which we're really excited about. We just finished Rolling Hills, and in that audit, we found that you had just recently done some lighting projects, for example, and we're submitting all of that information to the incentive agencies to see if we can get some money back for the city retroactively. So we're doing some work in that area, but that's why these equipment inventories are so important. And it was interesting because the SoCal REN, which is LA County that administers this program, was saying that they're very impressed with the COG because we were doing a ton of work and we're doing it on such a small budget. And I thought, dang, I should have asked for more money on that then. So anyway, that project is going really well. We're really excited. We have 3 Civic Spark Fellows that are going to actually start with us in September. One is going to be working on transportation. One is going to be finishing the climate action plan work, which is the greenhouse gas inventories. And one of them is going to be working on energy efficiency. So also helping with doing these audits and things like that. We need to reach out to school districts too. And for the climate work, we have several cities that haven't actually given us data yet so that we can do the greenhouse gas inventories. I don't have that list in front of me tonight, but as soon as that person comes on, we'll start reaching out to those cities and getting that work done so that we can have all the cities. We want everybody in so that when I go and speak to different agencies or the CPUC or whatever, I can say all of the cities in the South Bay want this or need this. And that's what we're trying to do. Then the last thing is to make sure that you know, and you come to the 20th anniversary of the Environmental Services Center. I'm going to go ahead and pass it out. You should have gotten an invite for this already. And if you haven't, just reach out to me. We can also send another one out to just the board list. I think it came out through our constant contact. So I don't know, sometimes people don't actually see the constant contact. Also, you might want to double check that you're not opting out of the constant contact so that you can actually get our email addresses, or if there's a special email that works better, let us know, give us that so that we can reach out to you. But it's very exciting. We're getting little videos from our legislators that are congratulating us that we're going to actually show at the event. We're putting together like this huge list of accomplishments that I think is like 15 pages long of all the different things that we've done. 20 years is a long time to get stuff done. And there'll be a nice special newsletter that comes out, but this will be a nice celebration. We're inviting everybody, all of our friends from all of the years, utilities, everybody to come to this event. So we really want everybody there.
Yeah, please come. The staff's working really hard, and it's fun because we have new staff, and Kim and I are trying to put in the last 17 years.
Trying to remember, like, what 20 years is a long time to remember things. So
I'll invite your former accountant.
Oh yes, please. Yes, that'd be fantastic. Okay, yeah. Any questions on any of that? Yes.
Couple things. I'm excited about the 20th anniversary celebration. Are you gonna have it out in the parking lot or something like that? Or
no, we're gonna have it in here.
Inside?
Yes, we're gonna have it in here, and we're going to. Natalie doesn't know yet. I think what we're gonna do is take like these two tables out and that 2 table, and then move the chairs out and have like this sort of like a standing room in here because we need to be able to project the videos. Yeah.
Then my other question was an operational one. Forgive me if I've asked this before, but my understanding of a fair bit of what the Environmental Services Center does is basically connect our constituents to some of the programs that are available to them, whether it be the Christmas tree light replacement or the water barrels, the rain barrels. I may have asked this, but I know AQMD has a number of programs, for example, rebates for home electric vehicle chargers, and also programs that help replace landscaping equipment, for example, so you can get rid of those 2-stroke leaf blowers, replace them with electric and stuff like that. How closely does the center work with AQMD to do what it basically does for the rain barrels, for example, which is quarterly or periodically just pump out into our communities the availability of rebates for what AQMD offers, for example.
Yes, actually, the reason why you see a lot of energy, water, waste reduction kinds of strategies and a lot more activity with that is because those agencies are our actual partners. They pay us and they offset the cost of us going out and doing events. You know, our staff does over 100 events a year and actually does the rain barrel, helps West Basin hand out those rain barrels. We actually have the West Basin line where we're answering questions from the general public about that project. So we have a very close relationship with them. We don't have as close a relationship with the AQMD. They're not an actual official partner, but we can definitely find out more information on those programs and, like, you know, get them into our materials.
Have we asked them to partner with us, with the center?
I think we absolutely should ask them to partner with us. Yeah.
I absolutely would.
Yeah.
I think my city, for example, one of the things that drives me nuts is it's been illegal to have gas-powered leaf blowers for years. And yet they're all over the place. And I think even some of our own city landscapers use them. And I always constantly tell our environmental programs manager, like, can we connect with AQMD to get our landscaper to replace these things? So I think AQMD's got money that can be put to use in our communities, and we ought to partner with them.
Definitely reach out. Cedric, I think we have somebody here today from the AQMD. And I don't want to put you on the spot. I don't know if you want to make a report. Why don't you make your announcement, and then maybe you can take this information back and tell us who we need to be talking. Love to be your partner. Okay. Go ahead and then.
Yeah. Yes, do it now. Better sit right next.
So, hello everyone, I'm Brandy Keith. I am the South Bay representative with the geographic outreach team at AQMD. So we do a lot of the kind of outreach that you're talking about and bringing resources to the cities and to the different organizations. And so this will be the first time some of you are meeting me. I've only been.
But we get lots of emails from.
You do. You get lots
good
of
ones.
Barry actually does respond to them sometimes, and we have a little back and forth. So I just want to introduce myself. I've been with the team since last October. And tonight I have a full report, which is available in the agenda, but I did want to highlight one event that we have coming up next month. It's our 9th annual Environmental Justice Conference. And I brought the flyer as well as our latest newsletter. And I've also attached my business card if you'd like to get in contact with me to learn more about these programs. The Environmental Justice Conference has been obviously going on for 9 years. It's a really great opportunity for members of the public and also electeds to come in, and business partners, stakeholders to come in and join the discussion on our different themes. This year's theme is Building a Clean Air Future Together. So we're going to have a keynote speaker, we'll have a plenary session, and then a couple of breakout sessions. There will be a lunch served. Registration is free, but they are asking that you register, and there is a QR code and a link on the flyer that I've distributed. And I've also, I can send you PDF copies of the flyers if you like, just let me know.
Brandy, do you have information? I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, can I ask Brandy a question?
Yes, go ahead.
Do you still have the programs that I mentioned, the 2 particular rebates for?
Yes, we do. We
home
have
electric vehicle chargers.
We do have the Replace Your Ride, which does include electric vehicle chargers and different types of personal and some even fleet vehicles. I would have to check and see if this year's funds are still available or if they've been received for the year. But we definitely do still have the program, and I can get you that info. And we do have the lawnmower exchange program. Now for residential lawnmowers, we have rebates available for mowers, but then we also have a commercial wind garden equipment, which will cover like leaf blowers and larger commercial mowers.
Right. Kim, I don't know about the rest of the directors, but those are the type of programs that my constituents can absolutely use. And I would love to see be a regular part of the Environmental Service Center's offering.
Brandy, can you just send me all of that and I'll send it out to everybody?
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. And any
same here. Send me too.
Oh yes, absolutely.
And then maybe you can let me know who we can talk to about partnering, formally partnering.
Yeah, I'll run that up the flagpole with my managers and let them know that that's on the docket.
I think a question.
Question, do you have an opinion about, or does the AQMD have an opinion about electric leaf blowers? About whether they're environmentally sound or not?
I don't have that. I don't have any official statement available from AQMD on that, but I can ask and see if we have one.
Do you have an opinion on it?
My opinion?
Yeah.
My personal opinion, not speaking, not stepping away from AQMD for a moment. I like the electric blowers. I think they're great. I love they're quiet. And the battery technology is getting to the point where it's totally interchangeable in terms of how much mowing time you get as opposed to a gas powered mower. I absolutely think they're great.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
You got a question, Dave?
No, I
had that look.
Yeah, I have that look. So thank you. But just my fellow director, I'll just say Manhattan Beach has prohibited leaf blowers, electric or gas.
Likewise.
Since the 90s because of an Orange County grand jury report from the 90s, which banned them or suggested banning them because of particulates.
Right.
Regardless of the exhaust, it actually puts the particulates into the atmosphere.
Right.
So our council has been, or our last council, like before I was back on, was presented with the question of whether it should be revised in light of the fact that I think the state is going to prohibit the sales of gas blowers, but allow them still to be used and obviously encourage electric. And our council has not taken action. So I think that's the state of the law right now. But I'm not sure if that's helpful.
Yeah, no, we have the ban also. And I just, Public Works, when they got to cut huge the right of way underneath the SC power lines, then they got to go sweep all the grass. And so it's just, is there a middle ground where we can get the efficiency of air blowing without the environmental damage? But yes, particulate is an issue.
Thank you.
Okay, Tim.
Yes, yes, thank you.
Next is transportation report.
And it turns out that Metro was dark this month in August, and so was our transportation committee. So we will be obviously talking about, there will be a transportation committee meeting on September 11th. We'll probably be talking about the sea line there and the extension and some other issues. So that meeting is 10:30 on September 11th in the morning. And we hope that if you're interested, you will attend.
Local Travel Network.
And Local Travel Network. We're doing our pilot in El Segundo, and what we're going to be doing is not this week, but next week. We're going to be going to the farmers market, and we're going to be advertising that the turtle is coming. And we're going to have a table at the farmers market every other week, I think, until we get the turtle up and running. And what that means is we have signs being delivered to El Segundo in the next 3 weeks. And then we'll be scheduling a date after they're installed for some kind of a ribbon cutting or something. So we don't have a date yet, and I know we'll have one by the next meeting. But we are moving along with the pilot and also slowly getting other cities on more route refinement in other cities. So that's where we are with the Local Travel Network. I was gonna, before we go to REAP, and I know Jonathan is here, I wanted to mention the RENA reform. SCAG had a special meeting on Wednesday morning where they presented comments on RENA reform, and maybe Jonathan knows those. But what I wanted to tell you, this was a shock to me. I don't know if you all know this, and does anybody know how old RENA is? Any guesses how old RENA is?
20 years.
How old?
40. It's a long time.
RENA started in the Reagan era, 1968. That's before 1968. And so Awali is writing an article for our newsletter, the next one that comes out, but also one that we're actually going to send out. How many policies does the state have that they haven't reevaluated, they haven't started, they haven't looked again since 1968? This is we keep having these meetings to how can we reform it and how can we tweak it around and why should we do it this way? But maybe we should just look at the whole thing and decide if this is the way we want to go. So we're writing a very provocative article that we will probably be sending out, and hopefully you'll help us distribute it. So I just wanted to mention that. Watch for that when it's ready. Jonathan, do you want to talk briefly about REAP?
Yes, good evening, everyone. REAP is Regional Early Action Planning, and it is funding from HCD from the state channeled through SCAG to address RENA and to address housing needs. So the first update is for what is the REAP projects that are coming to a close very soon. We have 3 that are active. The first is ADU acceleration, and that is this empirical study of accessory dwelling units in 8 of our South Bay cities. The report today is that the consultant has provided us the final report chapter, and we are reviewing that now. So we've been reviewing several chapters along the way for the last year. We're almost done. That project is scheduled to conclude next Thursday, August 31st. So we have our final rounds of reviews, and that study will be then presented to our board, and it looks like we're aiming for September, a presentation, a brief presentation on these very detailed findings in September. The second project, commercial redevelopment into housing, looking at how can we potentially redevelop underperforming commercial into housing in 6 South Bay cities. It's a similar update. The consultant is finalizing the revisions to that final report. It's a much larger project in scope, so it's taking a little bit more time. It just encompasses so much more. That project is scheduled to conclude at the end of September, so we have a little bit more time on that. And we'll be reviewing those final revisions to the report very soon. And we are scheduled to present that to the board in late summer or fall. So looking like maybe September, October. The third project under REAP 1, the Housing Education Forum, we have completed 8 sessions about various topics related to housing in the South Bay. We have 3 left. We're going to do a session on the ADU acceleration project, a session on commercial redevelopment into housing, and in the final wrap-up session, David Legere and I have been working on creating the formal webpage that has all of the uploaded videos. Right now, we do have them on a YouTube page just so that if people want to go see the video, they don't have to wait till the end of the project. So there's a YouTube page, but we're actually working on a deliverable to SCAG and HCD where it'll be built into the COGS website. So shout out to David. I think he might be off, but he's been helping on that, and it's coming along very nicely. So that's REAP 1. Those are coming to a close this year. REAP 2, Regional Early Action Planning, that's coming up, and this one is a focus on implementation. We have 2 buckets of money that are in play. The first that I want to talk about is the Metro competitive option. So this was an option for partnering with Metro to do work on transportation and housing, and our project Micromobility and Neighborhood Hubs was selected for funding. So we've started the collaborative process with Metro. We are currently updating the scope of work and preparing that budget for our internal review, and then that will go to Metro very soon so that they can see it. We're also drafting the RFP that will go out to recruit for consultants. We expect the conditional funding in the fall and the project starting in January. So that was the competitive option for REAP 2. The direct allocation to the COGS is called the Sub-Regional Partnership. This is the non-competitive earmark. We have 2 projects in play: the South Bay Regional Housing Trust and Commercial Redevelopment into Housing Phase 2. So SCAG asked for a few more details after we submitted the application. We did all the revisions that they asked for, and those edits have been sent back. It's under review. However, I think there's good news in that SCAG this week asked us to start working on some procurement documents. So that portends good things. If they're asking us to look at some procurement documents, I think that's a good sign. So we expect the determination on that earmark to be September, and the project would start in January 2024 as well. So we'll have, I'm confident that we'll have those 2 different REAP buckets of money for REAP 2. And the last thing that we've started to do in these updates is just to give you an idea of what the regional planner position has been providing to our cities. So in the last month, I've helped the city of Lomita. I just provided some resources to support them on their development of a graffiti ordinance and a mural ordinance. That is it for me. Thank you. Any questions?
Okay.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Next, South Bay Fiber Network, we're still working on our ladder grant. We're looking for vacant buildings in your cities that we can use for resilience. Cobble together several grants and provide a real robust community center, community that's really a 21st century center with digital connections, microgrid. We're really looking at something that's comprehensive. So we're meeting with a couple of cities about buildings that might be potentially available. We need to do that like in the next 2 weeks because we have to decide whether we're going to go for this grant or not. So if you do have a building that makes sense, Carson, for example, please let me know and we'll have a meeting as soon as possible.
How big of a building?
We're looking at, I think the minimum is 5,000 to 6,000 square feet to 20,000 square feet.
My building's in San Pedro. It's vacant floor right now.
Oh, vacant floor?
Yeah.
Well,
I'm wondering though, if we talked about maybe different sizes, right? Different sort of levels,
things,
because there's lots of funding that's coming out for this, like lots of funding coming out for this.
Send me the address.
Yeah. So anything you have, send it to us.
Yeah, just send it to us. We'll evaluate it.
Because it might fit something else, some other definition.
Yeah, no. Okay.
Question.
I have an empty power plant.
Yeah. I know.
Really high ceilings inside.
Nice.
What is a resilience center?
Okay, what we're calling a resilience center, and that's a good question because everybody's got a different definition. What we're calling it is something that is comprehensively a community center that has digital access. So you can have telehealth, teleeducation,
light manufacturing.
We might have a 3D printer in there. Reason I'm giving you a whole litany is that the way it would start is we go to the community in the surrounding neighborhood and say, these are the opportunities. What would you like to have? We're not going to design it for a community. We're going to tell them what they can possibly have and work with the community. That's the first thing, would be digital. Second would be a mobility hub. We want to put EV charging stations there. We want to have a local travel network, hopefully connect and a connection to the regional transportation system. The third would be the energy. We're working with a company that does microgrids so that we could put a microgrid in this building that might be able to serve the entire surrounding neighborhood if there's an emergency. It could also be a cooling center if there's heat. So again, I don't know what a heating center, I don't know if we have that much cold. But so what we're trying to do, and the reason we call it, the Resilience Center is a piece. You can get a grant from the energy people called the Resilience Center. You can get a grant from the digital people called the Resilience Center. So everybody's throwing around the term. And what we're doing is we're trying to use that term to bundle all of these things together and create a community center that really includes all of it.
And is it supposed to be resilient to heat waves or extended outages of the grid, an earthquake, or all of the above?
All of the above. That we're defining it as all of the above.
Climate change, everything.
Yeah, yeah. So if you have a place that, I mean, we've been looking at a couple of different buildings, and it's not easy. It's not going to happen overnight, but it won't happen unless we get started. Right. So,
and now's the time.
Yeah,
like now is.
Proximity to a significant transit hub is one of the criteria.
It's not. It would be okay. It would be, but we're going to try to have the local travel network and maybe even create a transit, a regional hub. I mean, like let's say it's in Gardena, maybe Gardena Transit could set a route that would go by there, or your dial-a-ride or something. So we're not going to be with the kind of transit we have in the South Bay. We're not going to make that the principal concern. Okay. Anybody else? So we saved. This is almost the last. And Ronson always has a lot to say. So go on, Ronson.
Lots today. But all good stuff. So let me see if my sharing is working. Okay, cool. So speaking of resiliency centers, we had Hurricane Hillary that came by, and it's good to see we all survived that the earthquake.
And the earthquake.
Being that we never get that, we weren't prepared for it. And so Friday and Saturday was very busy. We were in communication with the county, as well as Area G, emergency management. We wanted to make sure people were safe. But fortunately, it wasn't as bad as feared. We were prepared to shelter people using our client aid funds. And we ended up sheltering 2 people, one 80-year-old gentleman from Carson, who was in the park with his walker, and then Supervisor Hahn had a constituent that needed help as well. So we sheltered that person as well. We also helped bring 2 people in from Uganda Beach indoors as well.
I want to interrupt him, Chris, just to say that he says we weren't prepared, but Ronson was prepared.
Yes.
He was calling all these places. He was getting this done. Go ahead.
Let's see. And then, okay, so then the homeless count, so, you know, just taking a step back a little bit, the homeless count was released back in July, and Boston did something different this time where they didn't release individual city counts publicly. And so they're moving away from doing the state level data because they can't stand behind it. They claim it's imprecise, and there's a lot of reasons why they're moving away from that. And some of the things that we've been saying for years now, right? The multiplier and the extrapolation process that they do, it's not something we're very happy about anyways. And so there's now discussion amongst our cities on doing a regional homeless count outside of the LAHSA count. And so we've been talking to CityNet. There is a provider that does the Redondo Beach survey I think for the past 2 years now. So we're discussing pricing with them. But CityNet would like to know which of our cities would be interested in doing the separate count. And some of the information they need would be like, if you're interested, the square miles of your city and any topography challenges of your city. And then they can get back to us on pricing, and then we can decide if this is something we want to do or not. So
if you think you're interested, you might want to ask your city manager to look into it, because it will cost money, but we hope to save money if we do it together.
Do you have an idea of how much it runs? So like
Redondo Beach pays 30.
Oh, 30,000.
Yeah, they count. Yeah. So hopefully with economies of scale, we can make it more cost efficient, I guess. There was a Blue Ribbon Commission motion to supervise remediation. And if you wanted the Blue Ribbon Commission recommendations, number 7 was to establish an executive level committee so that we can have better accountability of the homelessness crisis. You know, a lot of the complaints are that there's too many chefs in the kitchen, people pointing fingers, and so there's not one place where the buck stops. And so this executive level committee would be that place. And the motion passed. The executive committee would be made up of 2 members of the Board of Supervisors, the mayor of the city of Los Angeles, the president of the Los Angeles City Council, and this is where it benefits us. So 4 city members, 1 from North County, 1 from San Fernando Valley sector, 1 from the Southwest corridor, which would be us.
It would be us and West Side cities.
West Side cities, yeah. And the San Gabriel Valley sector and the Southeast sector. And there will be other appointees as well, but just wanted to give you a sense that we now have a seat at the table, which is what we've been lobbying for the past couple of years. So that's a good development.
Can I just remind you again that I never get notified about city selection committee. When I do, I will send, we'll find out. I'll say who's interested in this, and we'll start a campaign. John Marsh, for example, is on the La Casa because they started a campaign and he got all the votes before we even knew what was going on. So if you get this and you're at all interested in any of these, in this position, we got to start working on it, and let me know, and we'll get the cities involved.
Yeah, oh, there it is. I'll play this in the background, but Alfonso, I don't know if you want to be put on the spot, but another big development recently was Pathway Home.
Did you want to play it?
Yeah, I'll play it.
Okay.
Yeah. I won't have the sound on, but you can see the visuals. So this is LA County's version of Mayor Bass's Inside the State program. So it's part of the emergency declaration, and you can see CEO Sherry Todoroff there. But this is a big event that happened on August 9th, 10th, and Alfonso, you want to just kind of talk about it and the success that we saw during this operation?
Yeah, so during this, I ended up going with Ron. So
it's over by the way, it's over by
Century in
La Cienega.
Yeah, in La Cienega. It was like a 50+ encampment that it's always an encampment, goes in and out. But the good thing about this program is that it's tied to immediate housing. So housing is already set aside, and we were able to get 50 folks into housing immediately and during those 2 days operation. And in part because St. Margaret was there, Pathway was there, of course, all county facilities, and our sheriff host team, they're really great at going out and talking to unhoused folks. And they're trained for that. They're not, they don't have that bad perception that usually community members have, like, oh, they're coming aggressive. They don't. They come in and they talk. They already have rapport with some of the folks in there, some of the unhoused people there. So this was almost a year-long process of planning with all the multiple departments, and it was I wasn't part of the planning, but we got into the very end where the lead did a great job of making sure that all the departments were on board and stick to the message. And I'm surprised for having 100+ folks in these meetings, none of it got leaked out. And we were able to get it going. So 50+. So, and also this helped us establish our RV pathway home, which also got about 30 folks out of RVs as well.
Yeah, so kudos to the county and Supervisor Mitchell for helping organize this. We got 50+ people indoors. And so, yeah, I hope this is the beginning of something really, really great, like something we probably should have been doing all along, which is, having executive level oversight on the homelessness crisis and getting out there, rolling up your sleeves and just knocking down these cabinets one by one. And that's what we're doing now. So that's really good.
One thing I want to add that this is also part of our partnership with the bordering cities. So England was involved, and so a portion of it was Hawthorne. So all 3 jurisdictions were involved as well in Caltrans.
Yeah, and the executive director of LASA was out there too. So it's great. And then I'm also really excited to introduce, let me stop sharing so you can see Kathy on there. So Kathy Hetzer and Keenan, this gentleman here to my left, they are new to the COG, new employees. Very happy to welcome them. And Kathy actually technically is retired. She retired in July from Harbor Interfaith Services. She was probably one of our top 5 case managers in the South Bay. Whenever Lori and I had any questions about homelessness, she was one of the people we had on our speed dial. And so like Michael Jordan, I dragged her out of retirement and now she works for us. And so we have this great resource for our city. Kathy specializes in finding people housing, but she also specializes in the senior community. And the senior population can be a very hard demographic to triage because of the many different resources available and then just kind of some of the state that the seniors are in. But Kathy has a lot of experience in that. So I'm very happy she's joining our team. And seniors is the fastest growing demographic in homelessness. So with Kathy on board, we have a great new weapon to fight against that. And then Keenan here, he's joining us to be our new housing administrator. The way to think about him is he's going to be sort of a housing concierge service for our case managers, housing navigators. He's going to create a database of local housing inventory and connect people to the housing inventory that we have. He comes to us from the UCLA Luskin School of Public Affairs. He has a master's degree in social welfare planning. And on his thesis project, he did a thesis on miracle messages and this universal basic income program. So he's very knowledgeable on the topic. We're excited to have him. He also worked in the Lenox School District for a little bit of time last year. And he also comes from Rad E-Bikes. So he had e-bike questions. He's a good guy to talk to. He's an avid bicyclist. Really happy to have him.
Yeah. We did a lot of interviewing and we were really excited to get these 2 new hires. And there's a 3rd one actually coming on. So we're staffing up Browns's team so he can really utilize this. And so if you know a property manager or a company or a landlord, please send the information to Keenan and he will follow up on that so that we have that information and can work with those landlords and property companies.
One other thing. Oh, so for the homeless task force meeting, which is on September 6th on Wednesday, we are going to have the presentation from the county on the pathway home. We're going to have a new faith-based lead to talk about the faith-based initiatives of the CES system. And we're also going to talk about health insurance and how that has an impact on our homelessness situation. So LA Care, one of our largest Medi-Cal providers, insurance providers, their members are about 30 to 40% of the entire homelessness population in LA County. So our insurance providers actually have a lot of skin in the game in dealing with our homelessness crisis. And so that's kind of a new development. They're going to talk about how we can get connected to their case managers. Kathy, if you're still on, do you want to talk about the Senior Services Working Group and kind of one of the speakers that we have planned so far?
Good evening, everybody. Let's see. So I was the Adult Protective Service Home Safe Case Manager for SPA 8 for the first 3 years of its inception before retiring. So this year they have changed it where Harbor Interfaith is not going to be the only APS Home Safe Case Manager. So they're changing the program. They've added 3 new agencies to the team. So they're going to be expanding on their ability to house people or prevent seniors from becoming homeless. Also, the ERC, the emergency, it's called Enhanced Recovery Case something. And it's for those seniors who need assisted living and higher level of care. So I've asked the LASA team to do a presentation at the senior services meeting on the 26th to do the rollout for both those programs so that we can get the case managers on board and start to utilize the new services that are available to them. Within the APS Home Safe, it's more like a problem solving type thing. So we may be able to use some of the hotel resources. Some of the resources that duplicate what we do now in client aid may be able to be handled for senior services from the APS Home Safe program once they get staffed up and running. So I'm looking forward to that challenge. And anything else that comes my way, seniors, you know, I'm always looking to try and help prevent them. So anybody needs anything, you can send them my way. Or you come across a senior that needs help, please let me know.
Do you have the testimonial?
Yeah. And so Jackie wanted to share this. We got this testimonial from Lala Garcia, who is Redondo Beach's housing navigator. And this came in last week. We got a very important case resolved, well, partially resolved on a good path, at least.
And I just wanted to, I mean, I read this and I was just really, it sort of capsulizes all the hard work that goes into this. They worked with this person for 3 years. And everyone really tried to chase down help for them, and the quality of life. Redondo Beach which is really got a great team of people. And after all of that, if you go through that, and I don't want to read the whole thing, she thanks. She says it couldn't have come about without Ronson and the South Bay Cities Council of Governments, but also at 6 p.m. I mean, Ronson was right there, and we were able to get the checks out and get this person housed. And it was just very, very exciting for everybody. And I just
want to add,
yeah,
was a regular at the Redondo Beach City Council meetings for a long time.
Yeah, send your gadflies to us. Right?
It's still a regular, actually.
Yeah. So it was just such a win-win for everybody, and it really showed to me how much work goes into this and how long it takes, and all of the players involved in just one person, and how every case is so completely different than every other case. So commendation to Ronson again for what he did to help the city. So thank you.
Thanks, Jack. You say September 6th? Yeah. Task force thing.
And there's also the client aid report in your agenda packet on page 127.
I had one question on homeless.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Same here. Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Ronson, regarding the interest of the cities in being part of a regional homeless count, have you contacted our city staff representatives about that?
We talked about the city manager's meeting.
Okay. Thank you.
Maybe a formal letter for those that weren't present at the meeting too.
We were trying to get better costs. So we'll work on it, but it's sort of a chicken and an egg, you know, how many cities, what's the cost?
Right. But
yeah,
I think that our staff member, for us, it's our deputy city manager, who is our point person on homeless issues. She would be the right one to chat with our city manager, see if they want to put it on our consent calendar or for discussion at council, because I can't tell you right now whether my city's interested. It would have to go to the council.
I think your city manager was interested, but it is a question of how much it's going to be. So we will follow up on that. Okay.
Yeah, also, if I may, on that same note, I don't think our staff knew that those numbers weren't going to be released for the individual cities, because our contact person said, "Oh, we're still waiting on the county to release those numbers for the individual cities." And when was the decision made not to supply these numbers, because I think those numbers are very useful, especially for cities like ours, to where we actually have a homeless plan.
Yeah.
And we also allocated $1 million of our recently passed SST tax, $1 million a year that's going to go towards homeless, but without having an actual count. And I feel like we're paying for something that's already there.
Yeah. The one of the issues, and it affected us, our spa 8, which is the South Bay, a lot, is that so we on the county, on the spa level count, which is all of the South Bay, they said we increased by 45%. And then they said that West Side increased by like 37%, and Gateway Cities increased by 40%. So these 3 areas increased the most out of all the areas in LA County. That bothered me a lot. Like, how did our area increase so much? And when I say that area, I'm also in county, our portion of LA City and the unincorporated areas. Our cities by themselves are doing a lot better than the region as a whole. But one of the things that I came to realize is that the 3 spas that had the biggest increases also counted on the same night. So the count is done over 3 nights, January 25th, 26th, and 27th. We counted on Wednesday the 26th, the three spas that increased the most. That was also the same night where there was an outage of the app, the counting app, for an hour and a half. Like, we couldn't submit data to it. And so that's just one coincidence that gives us pause about the data integrity of the count. And that's one of the many reasons why we kind of support not releasing it this year, because if you start looking at the track level data, there's a lot of variations. So like, you have one area that was down 40% last year, up 40% this year. And so if we did release it, we would have these variations we couldn't explain to our constituents. And that would have been a problem to have.
Yeah, we actually had a meeting with LASA, and they said, oh no, this has nothing to do with anything. But we just don't trust it. And I think the city of Gardena was 60 and then 200.
We went up tremendously.
Yeah, and so it's just crazy. The anomalies are crazy. And so, we feel like maybe if we try to do it ourselves, instead of the cities absorbing all that cost, we go to LASA and say, don't come here, we'll do it ourselves, and you pay us what you would have paid.
Yeah. You get good numbers.
So you get good numbers. I mean, I do believe that it should be all done at the same time, because you have a lot of, people that are moving city to city, especially if they're living in their vehicle. It's really easy to drive 10 miles down the road, get counted one place, and then next day get counted another place, yet it's the same individual. So doing it the same evening, I think, is actually a good thing. But I would imagine, since it took months to get the data, that we must have, I don't know, were we counting we must have had a paper backup. I mean, obviously an app, if it crashes and you organize this massive effort, you should have a plan B, which I would have believed that's what we did, right? I wasn't there, so I wouldn't know. But
yeah, there is that paper backup. The other problem too is this year we use a brand new app, and last year we also used a brand new app. And before that, every count before that was pencil and paper. And so we believe 2022 was a undercount, and then now we believe 2023 might be an overcount. So you also have those discrepancies. So there's a lot of inconsistency with the way they're doing it year over year. That's causing a lot of variation in numbers this year.
And there's also things like looking in a car and the talking about the factor of the cars.
Yeah. So one of the things that they've noticed too is so the count is one thing. So that's an all volunteer count, but they also send professionals out there to do a survey. This is why they can't be precise. So they do 2,000 surveys across all of LA County. In the South Bay, that number is like 300 surveys. So imagine like taking a survey of just 300 people for all of the South Bay and extrapolating that to the entire South Bay numbers. So what they found though, in that survey, just the 300 people, is that they found there's more people living in a car than there used to be last year. So last year there was like one person in a car. This year they found like 1.5 people in the car. And so the multiplier increase, that had a 10% effect on our numbers too. I think anecdotally, there might be some substance to that. I think we are seeing more families being distressed. And so you could have more families being in the cars. But that multiplier calculation has always been a point of contention. And the city net census that Redondo Beach does, they don't do an extrapolation. They actually go out and interview every single person that they see. And the idea, if we did,
it's smart, but I wouldn't want Redondo Beach to do it on Friday and then next Wednesday Torrance does it. It really throws the numbers off. It would be better to have a coordinated.
Yeah.
All that same thing.
Yeah, we've talked about because the South Bay is so big. We've talked about doing it in like 3 tranches. So you do the like beach cities and maybe Torrance, the inland cities, the peninsula cities, something because you have to pay for a lot of staff if you're going to do it all in one night, and it would save us probably some money if we divided it up. But you're right, we don't want to divide it up like crazy. Too much, yeah.
Yeah, we're thinking about like maybe 3 nights in January,
right?
To do it.
Yeah,
we're very close to the LA homeless count.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And I will work with Ronson to send something out to your staff to make sure this moves along.
Look at clarification for the count that's being proposed. Is going to be separate from LASA's count? Is that the proposal?
Yeah, I mean, so LASA's also looking at what they want to do going forward. I think from the calls from the cities, there a lot of consternation about it. So I'm also on the homeless count for, or at least I'm going to be on it. And so one of these I'm going to pitch to LASA to see if we can somehow find a way to fund the homeless count using a different. But I don't know. It's very tricky because HUD provides all the rules for the homeless count. We have to follow the HUD guidelines. But maybe there's a way where we can just do our count and have LASA adopt the count. Anyways, that's the hope and dream. But I don't know.
Getting pushback from my team right now.
Thank you, Ronson.
The last agenda item is on page 129, and I know you all came here tonight to talk about this. This is the General Assembly, March 28th next year, and the current topic that we're working on is the current title is Artificial Intelligence, Friend or Foe for the South Bay. And the idea would be that we would invite maybe a private sector person, but also department heads from your cities to talk about how they are using it and what concerns they have. And we're just starting to formulate it. And I would welcome any of your ideas for how we can do this. It's a huge subject. Every year, one of our going in goals is to make the General Assembly shorter. So, you know, it's a balancing act. But we really could use your help. If you know, if you've heard of a speaker on AI or some article that you've read, please share it with me. And I'd take any comments you have right now.
Didn't Independent Cities Conference just have something on that?
They did.
Oh,
Yeah,
they did.
Was it
But
interesting? Helpful?
the same day I can help you. But
I forgot you said it.
it wasn't super detailed. And, you know, if you think about how you do a newsletter to your constituents, you got to put all the inputs and all the new information to a certain extent. Maybe it could craft it for you. And the question is, well, what app is going to do that for you best? So I think
that's too
hard details on.
It's like practitioners, and I guess you want to hear more about the overall picture, right?
Mm-hmm. How can it infiltrate our services and
you
got onto the cybersecurity, which is a good piece of it. So just how well are our cities in relation to AI, and how will that affect our services when people are online trying to order something or trying to pay for a permit or paying for something to that effect with AI? So how would that actually affect us?
Virtual assistants.
Virtual assistants,
Virtual assistants like grant writing.
Even in parks and recreation, when you're doing registration for the kids for the different classes, how would that be affected behind that?
Also, how can it affect the workforce and employment?
Jackie, I had just an overview in response to the positive comments that are being made. Is maybe the title could be modified a little bit, as opposed to calling it, friend or foe for the South Bay. I've also read some of the concerns, which I think are well placed. On the other hand, I'd like to learn more about these opportunities. So I'm just wondering, might it be called artificial intelligence opportunities and concerns, as opposed to something so sort of dark and eerie? Frankly, I'd like to learn how it can help our smaller city governments perhaps undertake more tasks. I mean, some of us are old enough to remember when computers were on the horizon and how there was tremendous fear about what they
talk about it.
In fact, can you imagine We go back. I just would love to learn more from a positive point of view.
I was trying to create a you know,
something,
but a grabbing
Catchy.
title. Yeah. But I definitely think what we're going to try to do is come up with something that shows what the opportunities are. I mean, that's the whole purpose. How do you support your staff in making your city use AI in the best way? And how do you support them in putting in the proper safeguards? That's what I was saying.
Yeah. That sounds good.
Quick question. Is this the working title for the entire General Assembly?
Yes.
Yeah.
And when is the General Assembly? October?
March 28th.
March 28th.
There is time to change.
We have changed the time today.
This is
Yeah.
That's what we put it out to everybody.
Stone, right?
Give us some ideas.
Yeah.
The name.
Yeah.
Well, I just give my quick 2 cents on it, and Zane probably knows this. Any practicing lawyer knows this. We have continuing legal education requirements, and I must get 5 or 10 solicitations by email every day about seminars on AI. My own frank take on the thing is that it's so new that nobody really knows much about it to begin with, let alone what the opportunities or concerns are. And so it's got to mature before we can build an entire General Assembly around it, I would think. I mean, it may be good for as a subtopic at the General Assembly. I would just caution against building the whole General Assembly around it, because I frankly don't think anybody really knows, because it hasn't been put into practice in any substantive way. Like some of the big law firms, I think, are starting to dip their toes in it, according to what I know. Maybe big engineering firms are doing the same thing. Governments are doing the same thing, but it's all very new. And in a year and in 2 years, there's going to be a lot more substance to discuss about it than there is right now. It doesn't mean we shouldn't talk about it, because it's an interesting topic and it certainly is going to affect stuff. But I just don't know if we can build an entire General Assembly.
I just received a lead to a private sector person who actually worked for a logistics in the port or something, I think in freight. And we used AI. And he has written several articles, and he has sent me the list of articles, which I haven't, I mean, I just got them yesterday. He is giving speeches about AI. And I'm wondering, maybe you're falling into what I'm looking for, is if we had a speaker on AI and maybe a couple of cities talking about their responses and a speaker on cybersecurity, we have a shorter General Assembly, which is what we've always wanted, and we can open up that topic. So maybe that's what we should look for. I mean, I think you're right. This guy I talked to said, this whole thing is new since March. I mean, it's like, it's really new, and it is evolving. And so maybe, and everybody wants to know about it. So maybe there's just an introduction. Maybe this is an introduction to AI. I don't know, but if
years, you've often found other jurisdictions which maybe have adopted a set technology that provides an opportunity to explore some of these issues. I'm wondering if you know of one, or if you've looked at one, because we can all benefit from potentially learning how a city is adopting this technology, even when it's new. Because I know over the years you've wanted to stay on top of these issues, whether it's fiber networks, like the Colorado city, I can't remember its name, and other issues over the years that sought to get ahead of these new technologies. Because that's the buzz, right?
there was an article in the paper about LAPD using it for risk recognition, for example. And so there's more and more things that are coming out, and I'm trying to monitor that. But I mean, we're all going to have to do this. If you see things, please let me know. And if you see another topic that you think would be better, we have time, but I really want to put it on the table for you to think about, because we have to start inviting speakers. And the way we do this is to get sponsors, and they need to know what the topic is.
Maybe we consider narrowing the scope to artificial intelligence in government or something like that, and bring in people who are on the cutting edge of it, maybe Silicon Valley cities or cities with big budgets, that are actually staffing up to implement AI. States, for example.
But that's not really the stuff that I've seen. That's not who's doing it. It's like within a lot of cities, there's like an individual planner or an engineer who's using it on a project to test things out. So I don't think you're going to find what you're looking for that way. What I've seen.
You might be right. I think I saw a headline in Governing Magazine. I'm not sure how many of us get that. It used to be in print. It would come in all of our mailboxes every quarter or whatever. Now it's digital. But I thought I saw a headline but I'm sure it was a very sort of preliminary, like, hey, this is 3 states that are dipping their toes in the water, not a whole lot of substance to it, but it could be that some folks are diving a little bit more deeply in the government sector, but I'm just throwing out thoughts.
I mean, you still think it's a good idea to just.
That's what this is the whole brainstorming process. There's nothing bad. Keep going.
I kind of agree with what Justin's saying, in that it's kind of like half baked at this time, because I just went to ICA and I didn't feel like the AI conversation was very fruitful, because it didn't give me a way to rally AI into my either being a council member or to take it back to the city and say, hey, use AI for this. With that said, I mean, I just Googled, hey, what cities are using AI the most? London leads the way, followed by New York City and Singapore. So if we could find out, somebody from there, either to speak live or via Zoom about how they're using it, that could be.
Of an AI person.
Or have an AI presenter, right? Yeah. So, and to his point, even lawyers are getting in trouble because they're using AI and it's misciting stuff. Thomson Reuters, Westlaw just came out with a beta program to show us how it's used, but it's still not official and still not a release because they're still working on it. So it's still kind of in its nascent stages. But
well, now that I'm going to be an employee, I could lead a delegation to London, New York, and Singapore.
Sounds interesting.
Why don't we ask Chat GPT to come up with a list of speakers?
There you go.
Write their presentation.
Yeah, and you'd be surprised at what you might get.
So, okay, please make sure that if you wake up in the middle of the night and think of something, let me know. We're going to start putting things together now.
But one thing that did come up, we just had our active shooters training yesterday for elected officials. And one of the things that came up in there was the facial recognition of employees, because you all do your name badges with your picture on it. To actually have that, so if any employee who may have been terminated or issues, it comes back, at least you have that person's face that'll show up on the recognition. So they're just trying to figure out how that can be utilized within employment within cities. So that's something that we talked about just yesterday.
Wow, that's so.
But now so many employees come back as consultants afterwards.
They need a medal.
SWAT team converges on it.
So that's all I had. The last thing I want to say is that, as you probably noticed, David Leisure is on vacation. I want to thank Dakota Townsend, working with Natalie today, for getting this meeting together. Thank you.
And any members have any announcements or upcoming events or activities, or everybody quiet?
No, we're celebrating. I don't even know if tickets are for sale. Pat was complaining about our website, but our city is celebrating its 50th.
You had the same experience? Oh my God.
Well, he complains to me like I put our city's website.
I thought you did it.
No,
as the one for Rolling Hills. So,
oh yeah, no. So our city's having its 50-year anniversary celebration at Terranea coming up Saturday. You should know the date, September 9th. So coming up.
That sounds awesome. I'll say Hermosa Beach is bringing back summer concerts. I think our chamber, hbchamber.net, has it. So it's, I think, Labor Day weekend and maybe the weekend after. And there's movies at night too, out on the beach. Very popular events. So by all means, come on down. Let me know if you're going to be in the city.
In Redondo Beach Friday, we start CA 101, which is an art exhibition at the Redondo Beach Historic Library. Beautiful historic building. It's the final year that they have it contracted. After that, the building's going to go through some renovations. So check it out. It'll go on Friday evening to Saturday and Sunday. And I think it's free.
Guardian is having their jazz festival Sunday. I'm not sure if it's really out. We can check with our Parks and Rec.
It's just about.
Our key name. Sing nice.
City of Carson has, let me see, it's a long list. This coming Saturday is our Family Fest at Stevenson Park from 12 until 6. This is a family event with coming out with the entire family called Fam Fest. On September the 9th, we have our annual Cajun and Blues White Linen event that I put on every year. This is our 5th year. It sells out every year. On the 16th of September, I have my annual Prostate Cancer Awareness Walk. So at Cassie Dominguez Hill. So if you want to come out and do a 5K with me, come on out. It's from.
It was pretty cool.
Pretty cool. Driving it, right? No, we walk it. Drive. I just did a 15-mile bike ride last Saturday, because we had our Tour de Carson in the city. So nice. I gotta get Mike though. My e-bike didn't work, so I rode. So it didn't happen. And then on 9/11, we have our Heroes Day. We always celebrate all of our frontliners in the city, and as well as remembering 9/11.
Is that during the day?
It's during the daytime.
That's our steering committee day.
I know. Same day.
Let you figure that out.
Anybody else? With that, we are adjourned.
Thank you. What do you?
I'm taking the rest of the top. All right.